Thank you for joining us for the second webinar of our Fall 2024 Living Well Wednesday series. I am Monique Kerner, Family and Community Wellness Agent, and I will be your host today. This virtual series is focused on a wide variety of essential skills that empower you and your family. During this presentation, please be respectful and open to others throughout the presentation. Feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box or into the chat box. The Q&A has an anonymous feature, so feel free to utilize this if you wish. Our chat monitors will watch closely to make sure your questions are answered. Today's presentation will be posted to our Living Well Wednesday homepage. We encourage you to visit the page to see past webinars we've covered. Go ahead and advance the slide, please. Yeah. K-State Research and Extension is an equal opportunity employer. Therefore, we do not discriminate against anyone. If there is a special request or concern to allow you to participate in our programs, please reach out to us. We are so excited to welcome Erin Martinez. She is an Extension Specialist and Associate Professor. The topic of her presentation is Foolproof Your Life, a guide to better balance. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you, Monique, and good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you today talking about a topic that I am very passionate about, which is fall prevention. I myself have fallen, and I will tell you the story about it later on today. I've experienced people in my family falling. I've talked about falls prevention in a variety of ways through my professional capacity as well. And so this is something that I am very passionate about and excited to share some things with you today. So to get started, just a little bit about what we'll be covering are some quick fall facts that aren't intended to scare you or make you nervous, but instead rather to open our eyes to some of the realities associated with falls and then what we can do about it. We'll also talk about what contributes to falls. We'll cover 8 falls prevention tips, and then I'll also talk about what to do if you experience a fall. This is all great information for you to incorporate in your own life, but of course also to share with others in your family, with your friends or other community members. So take this information, soak it in, but then also share it with others. This is incredibly useful and a very important topic, fall prevention. So to kick us off, I would just like to start with some falls facts. So how many people are falling? What are the outcomes of this? What are the ramifications of falls in the United States? So about 25% of adults over the age of 65 fall each year. So about 1 in 4 of us will fall. This number is actually down a little bit from previous research that was done decades ago. So it seems as though a lot of our preventative efforts have been working and continue to work, but we need to see this number go lower. So right now, 1 in 4 adults over the age of 65 will fall. And unfortunately, falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injury among older adults over the age of 65 in the United States. So this is injury that ultimately leads to your death or not. Falls are the #1 cause of that. Falls result in 3 million emergency room visits each year, and 1 million of those result in ultimately like an overnight stay or hospitalization in your local hospital. So we see pretty significant impacts from that. Out of the 1 out of 4 that are falling, a lot of them are ending up in the ER and then staying there as well. And $50 billion is ultimately what fall-related expenses cost each year to our entire medical system and then out of our own pockets as well. So $50 billion is spent on non-fatal fall injuries each year, and hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on fatal fall-related injuries and the resulting treatment of that before someone's ultimate death occurs. Oops. Okay, there we go. All right, a few more facts for you. Less than half of fall victims tell their doctor that they've fallen. And I'll talk a little bit later about why this is such a big deal. But falling is not a normal part of aging. That is something that we need to be talking with our doctor about. And falling once doubles your risk of falling again. Hence, why we need to be talking with our doctor about that in case there's something that we can do on the medical side to help prevent falls. Most falls are caused by a combination of factors, and we'll talk about what some of those factors can be later on. But the bottom line is that falls are common, they are costly, and they are oftentimes preventable. So there's a lot of people who are falling. We know that falls can result in significant injury and even fall related death. We know that ultimately that costs a whole lot of money. And it can be a really scary thing. A lot of people are falling, and we know that there's a big risk for that. I will share personally, my grandmother passed just a few weeks ago, and ultimately her death was related to a bad fall that she had in her home. And then she ended up going into the hospital, then into assisted or really a skilled nursing facility, and ultimately passed. But it really went downhill because of a major fall that she had in her home. So this is something that's really personal to me. And I know I've shared this story. This isn't the first time about my grandma and her ultimate death. And I'm not the only one. I mean, I don't know how many of you know someone who has fallen or know someone who fell and then went into the hospital and never returned home. It happens and it's common, and there's lots of things that we can do about it. So let's kick into that. So my first little tip here is don't let the fear of falling get you down. So all of those statistics are scary. I know it's a really unfortunate story sharing about the loss of my grandmother and her ultimate fall and preceding death. But being fearful of falling actually increases your risk of falling, especially if you don't respond in a preventative way. So having this fear of falling, which can also be called falls anxiety, can increase the risk of falling in older adults and younger adults as well. So this occurs due to a combination of factors. And oftentimes it's like our bodies are responding in this protective way, but we're really not being protective. We're actually putting ourselves at a higher risk. And one of those ways is by altering our gait and sort of how we walk. Maybe we're taking a shorter step, or we're not walking as swiftly as we used to, or maybe we're reducing our arm swing. And all of those things can sort of throw us off balance. If we are so nervous about falling that we're just being a little skittish in how we walk, that can actually be a negative thing. Muscle tension and stiffness as well. When we're nervous, we oftentimes tense up, and that can hinder our movement and coordination and ultimately increase our risk of falls. We also have things like psychological distress, or basically that intense anxiety that can happen as a result of that fear of falling. Not only does that sort of increase your overall sensory, response to anxiety, but also when we're anxious, we are less likely to sleep well. And that can ultimately further exacerbate sort of like physical weakness, tiredness, and even cognitive decline issues as well. So it's all connected and all runs together. And the fourth thing that really feeds into this falls anxiety or that fear of falling is that ultimately a lot of people will end up reducing their physical activity, which increases their risk of falling. So that fear of falling can lead to an avoidance of behaviors such as reduced physical activity and reduced social engagement, getting out in the community. And ultimately, all of those things together can weaken our muscles, reduce our flexibility, impair our balance, and increase our risk of falls, make us less active. So it seems like there's this odd relationship between having this fear of falling, and then we sort of engage in some protective factors, and ultimately it makes us at a higher risk of falls. So this leads me to the popular phrase of if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Use it or lose it. If we are fearful of falling, we stop getting out in the community, we stop exercising, we stop moving in comfortable ways, then we're going to be done doing all of that. So whether it's getting down on the floor to play with your grandchildren, taking walks on the park, independently navigating the grocery store, or going to community events, it all matters. So we need to use our abilities or we're going to lose them. So to practice this idea today, I'm going to engage you all in several exercises from the National Council on Aging's Fall Prevention Initiative. There's 6 key exercises that they oftentimes recommend for all ages. And of course, you can adapt these to what you are able to do and to fit your needs. So I'm going to show you 6 exercises throughout our time together today. I'm going to do 2 at a time, and then we'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll do a couple of more, and so forth. But I invite you to engage in the following exercises with me. So go ahead and stand up if you're able, push your chair back. Get a little bit of space if you have it available to you. If you're not in a place where you can do that, that's okay. Take notes and work on this later. But I'm going to share with you the first 2 exercises that are really integral to fall prevention. And the first is sit to stand.
To start, sit toward the edge of a chair with armrests. Place your feet hip-width apart on the floor and your hands on the armrests. Stand up from the chair, using your hands to help as needed. Let go of the chair and pause when you are standing upright. Reach back for the armrests as you start to lower down.
So a simple exercise, something as getting up out of a chair, can have a huge impact on our overall sort of muscle strength in our legs, in our arms when we're pushing ourselves up out of that chair, our core strength, engaging that core to stand up straight. This is a big deal. We get in and out of chairs every single day, multiple times a day. So this is an exercise that is so critical to maintaining that independence and that overall stability. So the sit to stand exercise. Next is standing heel raises. This is great for our lower body strength, also thinking about stability and things like that. So this will show you this video will show you how to do the exercise. But I just want to say one of my favorite things to do to make it a little bit more difficult for me is to see how long and how long I can go to get all the way up on my tippy toes, and then how slowly I can go to get back down, and really thinking and being mindful about how all of the muscles that you're engaging as you do that. And if you sort of feel the different ways or the different parts of your feet that are touching the floor as you're going, I find that the slower that I go, like can feel different muscles working and feel different sort of like points of stability when the balls of my feet are starting to really engage the floor. And so give it a try. Try and do it as slow as you can just to see what I'm talking about. But engaging in these standing heel raises is a really great activity for our lower body strength, thinking about that overall stability. And you can try and adapt these exercises to make them suit your needs. So for me, I like to make it a little bit more complicated and just engage in some different ways. If you need to adapt and take this in an easier route, that is perfect too. And I hope that you are able to do that. So we will go ahead and watch this short video.
Stand near a stable surface for support with your feet hip-width apart. Keep your knees straight and lift your heels to rise up onto your toes. Avoid leaning forward. Then slowly lower your heels back to the ground. Reach for support if you lose your balance.
Okay, so you can see a quick and simple exercise there. Sometimes physical therapists will recommend that if you go up onto your toes to try to hold it for a count of 6 before you go back down. As I said, I was talking about sort of changing up the exercise. You can hold on to a sturdy table or chair if you need to. You can let go and try to maintain your balance, really engaging your core as you do that. So all of these exercises can be adapted, but these are really key exercises for falls prevention. So some of this I've already mentioned a little bit before, but I want to go into this a little bit more deeply about what contributes to falls. So conditions that research has shown make you more likely to fall include the following, and I've grouped them into a couple of categories, first being physical and the second being environmental. So with physical, the first is muscle weakness. I just said strengthen your lower body about 27 times when I was talking about those heel raises there. Muscle weakness is a huge risk factor for experiencing a fall, particularly in your legs. We know that that can impair your balance and coordination and really throw your whole body off. We also know that it is normal to lose a small amount of muscle mass each year as we age. And so we really need to work actively against that, to fight against that muscle loss and work to maintain and even gain muscle as we are getting older. So that takes some purposeful intention to engage in physical activity. That doesn't mean that you need to be running marathons and flipping tires and climbing ropes and doing all of those things. Instead, these can be simple exercises like the ones that we just showed and that we will be showing later on today. The second is vitamin D deficiency. So this is an easy blood test that you could do at your annual appointment, but vitamin D deficiency can lead to weaker bones and an increased risk of fractures if you fall. But vitamin D is also essential for muscle strength and function. So they sort of go hand in hand. You need enough vitamin D to have good, strong muscles. You also need to have enough vitamin D in order to help prevent fractures if you fall as well. So lower levels of vitamin D can contribute to muscle weakness and then increase your risk of falls. Lower levels of vitamin D also increases your risk of fracture if you experience a fall. Then we have walking and balance difficulties. So really age-related changes in our balance and gait can make it easier to stumble or lose our footing. So as we age, there are some normal changes that happen, but we can adapt to those and work to compensate for those. We can also then have some medications and the side effects of those medications and polypharmacy that can also influence our fall risk. So certain medications can affect our balance, drowsiness, blood pressure, and can increase our fall risk. It's also important to keep in mind that the way that our bodies respond to medications can change over time. So even if I've taken the same medication at the same dosage for 25 years, and all of a sudden now my body's doing something wonky, it happens. And so we need to be talking with our doctor about that, and our pharmacist as well. Polypharmacy is another one. So polypharmacy just means taking more than one medication. So taking multiple medications can increase the risk of drug interactions, so how everything all works together in your body, and ultimately adverse side effects. A lot of people I have talked with about polypharmacy and medication issues aren't aware that you can go and request like a consult one-on-one with your pharmacist and do a detailed review of all of your medications, possible interactions, when you should be taking your medications, if you should be taking them with food or not, or what other things we need to be considering. So if you are taking multiple medications, it's a great idea to schedule that one-on-one with your pharmacist or your doctor and review everything that you're taking just to be more aware, even if you're not experiencing problems right now. The next are sensory impairments. So we know that as we age, our senses can begin to naturally decline, including our vision and hearing, and even our reduced sensitivity to touch. And all of that can affect our overall spatial awareness, so our awareness of where we're at in a particular space, but also our reaction time as well. So we know that these natural age-related declines can impact our fall risk. Foot problems, foot pain, poor footwear, all of that. Of course, poor footwear sort of makes a lot of sense, right? If we're wearing high heels or, flip-flops or things like that that can be a little bit more dangerous, of course, that's going to increase our fall risk. But it's so important that we are also making sure that we're taking care of our feet, particularly if we have diabetes, because painful feet or sores and things like that can affect our gait, our stability, how comfortably we're walking, and ultimately affects our fall risk. Next is environmental, and I'm going to go into some of these hazards a little bit later, but just briefly skimming the surface of those environmental hazards are in our home, but also outside. So whether that's outside of our home or outside in our community. So in our home, we're thinking about things like clutter and throw rugs. Throw rugs are my arch nemesis when it comes to fall prevention. They have no place in your home. Get rid of them. Clutter and throw rugs are awful. And poor lighting is the next one. These are three big ones that we can so easily fix just by use of simple plug-in night lights and things like that can help impact lighting, and slippery floors as well. So lots of things to think about with home hazards. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then outdoor hazards such as uneven sidewalks, icy patches, poorly maintained steps, all of that can increase our risk of falls, whether we're at home or out in our community. So a long list of things, but research has really started to pull together all of these connections and show that fall prevention is complicated. There's a lot that we need to talk about and a lot that we can do. But if we do all of these things, we're drastically going to decrease our risk of falls. We're going to reduce those expenses that are associated with falling and even reduce our risk of death. Okay, so in addition to all of those things I just mentioned on the last slide, there's also a lot of newer research that's come out in the past couple of years showing a strong correlation between grip strength and fall-related injury and death, and also your fall risk as well. So a study published a couple of years ago found that it was an independent predictor of fall risk in older adults. So an independent predictor meaning that if you have reduced grip strength and nothing else, you are still at a higher risk of falling compared to someone who has normal grip strength. So that ultimately means that grip strength is really important, and it helps us a lot when it comes to fall prevention. So I have some exercises here that I want to share. But first, I'll just say that if we're thinking about falling, so why is this connection so strong? It's really because if we're able to grab onto something and catch ourselves before we fall, or while we're sort of in the middle of that fall, that awkward moment where we're on our way down, then we're ultimately preventing that ultimate collision with the floor, preventing risk of injury and all of those things. And so grip strength has really shown to be that protective factor. So if our feet start coming out from under us, we're able to grab onto something and grab onto it tight enough where we keep ourselves up in the air and keep ourselves from hitting the floor as hard as we would if we didn't grab onto something. And so they're really showing the strong relationship between grip strength and fall risk. So I have some exercises, like I said up here on the screen, and I just want to show you quickly what these are. And I'm going to demonstrate with a kitchen towel that I have just grabbed out of my kitchen drawer. Simple kitchen towel, fold it up, and we're going to do some grip strength exercises. If you have a towel or even a jacket, maybe a shawl or a blanket or something near you, you can grab that and try this out. But I'm just going to quickly explain these to you. These are things that you can do just sitting, relaxing, watching the TV, whatever. It doesn't require any special equipment, just a towel or a blanket, cloth, something like that. So there's 3 different exercises. The first is the grip and hold. So essentially you're going to just squeeze onto your towel as hard as you can and hold it. So by holding it, we're improving our endurance and the ability to really be able to hold that grab bar while we're pulling ourselves up if we experience that fall. So that endurance and building that strength, and then let go and repeat. Now you'll see I have the word slim and wide next to that. So that means we can take a small portion of our dish towel and squeeze so our hand is more tightly together like this, or we can do it wide where we roll it up a lot more and then we're taking a wider grip on our dish towel or our blanket or whatever we're squeezing so that you're working different muscles in different ways. So tight or really big, doing a wider grip. So those are grips and holds. So hold for 6 seconds, 10 seconds, work your way up. Then we also have grip and release. So it's the same thing with slim and wide. Take a small part, take a big part, but this is doing it more quickly so that we're working some different muscles in different ways. We're improving sort of that like reaction time almost. So not so much focused on endurance, but more on that flexibility and ability to move our hands quickly and respond quickly. So that's the grip and release, slim and wide. And then the last one are towel rings. So essentially, we're going to act like we're wringing out a towel and twisting our hands in opposite directions. So it's best if you put your hands out in front of you and you grip the towel. You can do this slim and wide as well, but really turn and pull the opposite direction and do that 10 times. So if you do ring towards you with your right hand, ring towards you with your left hand, that counts as 1 repetition. And then do that 1, 2, 10 more times. And you can do that again, slow, fast, slim, wide, but all of these things you can do with a simple object at home, doesn't cost anything, doesn't require any, specific time. If you're just sitting, enjoying a TV show at night, that's something that you can do without even anyone noticing, if you just want to work on that grip strength. So big connection between grip strength and our ability to protect ourselves from falling, protect ourselves from fall-related injury, and lowering our risk. So grip strength, very important. All right. So now we've talked about some fall statistics. 25% of people experience a fall. Falls are very costly. They're common. There's a lot of things that put us at higher risk for falls. We talked about that grip strength. And so now I just want to go through some 8 steps for falls prevention. So we've talked about all of these things. What can we do about it? Where do I start? Number 1, talk with your healthcare provider. Whether you are at risk of falling or not, talk with them. Do those medication reviews. If you especially are feeling like things in your body are changing, things don't feel right, you're nervous about falls, talk to your doctor about it. You can do fall risk assessments. You can talk about medications. You can talk about vitamin D, all of the things that we can engage in to help prevent falls. Talk with your doctor. The second is to keep moving. So already we've done some exercises with our videos. We did the towel. There's so many different ways that we can keep moving. So we offer through Cooperative Extension across the country a variety of exercise programs or physical activity programs, particularly those that can benefit and help older adults. such as Stay Strong, Stay Healthy, the Walk with Ease program, a Matter of Balance falls prevention program. In Kansas, we have a wonderful program called Walk Kansas, where we engage in fun walking activities. So many programs that you can engage in your community through cooperative extension, through your local senior center or area agencies on aging. Look for ways to stay active and keep moving. But exercises in particular that improve our balance and make our legs stronger, lower our risk of falling. And it also helps you feel better, have overall better physical health, but also makes you more confident and helps to reduce those risks of falls. So of course, talk with your doctor before you start a new exercise program. If you have any concerns, things like that. But make sure that we're doing it appropriately and safely, but keep moving. The next tip is to take care of your feet. So I already mentioned before some things about foot health and seeing your doctor, but there's some other things to think about as well. So routine care for our feet and proper supportive footwear, huge relationships with falls prevention. So foot-related risk factors that increase your fall risk include just generalized foot pain. Go see a podiatrist, talk to your normal or your regular healthcare provider to see what's going on. If we have foot pain and then we start to favor a certain leg or start to walk a little bit differently than we normally would, that can impact our gait, our balance, the way that we normally operate in the world. If we have reduced flexibility in our ankle joint, reduced calf muscle strength, reduced sensation from neuropathy, which can be very much tied with different medical diagnoses and treatments. If we have reduced sensation and other things as complications from diabetes, these are big things to be thinking about. And even presence of bunions or toe deformities or things shifting in our feet, that can all impact our fall risk. So talk with your doctor about that. Make sure that we're taking care of our feet. And then with shoes, always wear properly fitted shoes. Inside and outside of your home is typically the recommendation. I know some people have no shoes inside the house. If you are no shoes inside the house, bare feet are better than feet with socks because socks can be slippery unless we have the socks with the grippy stuff on the bottom. Those can be a great alternative. But make sure that we're wearing good shoes inside and outside of the home. I personally, I have gotten to the point in my life where I prefer walking in my tennis shoes in my home. My feet hurt less. It's safer when I have kids and dogs and all the things running around, spilling stuff. I prefer to walk in my home in tennis shoes. And then wearing sturdy shoes with low heels, traction, strong arch support, heel support, all of the things. There are great options for shoes that can fit well and work well and are safe. We don't have to jump to, some of the cliched shoes that maybe we saw our grandparents wearing. There are great options for shoes to wear that are good for your feet and safe for your body. The fourth tip is to make your home safer. So I already talked about and what contributes to falls. We talked about home and outside hazards. So this is all related to that. So remove things that you can trip over, like papers, books, clothes, shoes. If you throw your laundry on the floor, shove it in the corner. If you have your laundry basket out and it's overflowing, stuff it back in there. This is reality. Make sure that we're keeping stuff as out of the way as possible. Throw rugs, get rid of them. They are awful, whether they're the little tiny ones that you have, randomly throughout your home or even larger ones. They can be big trip hazards. If you want to keep them in your home, and maybe we keep things like that in the bathroom, make sure that they have super, super grippy bottoms that we are using. If it's a permanent rug, like not one that you use in the bathroom, make sure that you're using those tape products to keep the corners down so you can lay down the grippy mats And those are great at sort of keeping the whole thing in place, but the corners still can roll up or come up if you catch your foot on it. So getting the tape products to really secure that to the floor are a great idea if you're going to keep rugs like that in your home. Also thinking about floor transitions, making sure that those are secure. I always share the story. After my grandfather died, one of the first things that I noticed, I went into my grandmother's house and the floor transition was popped up, and she like almost tripped and fell over it then. And then my mom almost did. And so then my cousin and I were like, oh my gosh, get a hammer. Let's figure this thing out. Floor transitions, make sure that they are safe and secure. Hers had snapped off and was just sort of floating there, so it wasn't very safe. Things like that can be simple and easy fixes that can ultimately save your life. All right. In addition to things on the floor, also think about keeping things that you use regularly within reach. So within our kitchen, don't put things that you use all the time super high or super low, because then we're either having to get up on our tippy toes or we're having to bend down and then get back up. If you can move things around so where everything is with arm's reach without having to really reach up or bend down, that is fantastic. Thinking about grab bars. These are fantastic. And grab bars don't have to be the old school sort of unappealing type that we think of if we think of like a hospital or an accessible restroom out in public. They have beautiful fixtures now that can accommodate these needs. We built my mom a home recently, and in that we installed some really beautiful grab bars. They don't even look like grab bars in her bathroom area. They're beautiful, so easy. We bought them at Menards. Very accessible, not expensive. There's ways that you can do this that are aesthetically pleasing and don't make your home look like a nursing home. I've heard that before. I don't want to install grab bars because I don't want it to look like a nursing home. But there's things that we can do to make sure that we're still safe and still have an aesthetically pleasing home and not feel like a certain sort of way. Then with lighting, I mentioned that, and I'll talk about that again in a second with our next tip after we do some exercises. But in general, there's lots of things. Take a look around your home. There's checklists that you can use room to room for falls prevention. Have someone else come in your home and look around and do an assessment. It doesn't have to be a professional, although that would be wonderful. It could be a family member or friend or someone in your community who works in this space. Great option to have someone come in and put a second set of eyes on some falls prevention sort of risk factors in your home. All right, so our next tip is going to be about lighting, continuing that topic of making your home safer. But first, we're going to do 2 more exercises from our short videos. So exercise number 3, I invite you to stand up and watch the video, follow along. This is a forward lunge.
Set up near a countertop or chair for support. Stand with your feet hip distance apart. Then step forward with one foot and bend your back knee to lower it toward the floor. Your front knee should be bent and facing forward. Don't let it move inward. Keep your back straight and your abdominals tight. Then push through your legs to return to the starting position. Remember to reach out for the chair or counter if you feel off balance. Okay, let's do it.
This is an exercise that can be a little bit more challenging. If you need to have something stable on both sides of you to help you push up, that is okay. If you can only lunge down a little bit before you need to come back up, perfect. Adapt the exercise and make it work for you. And the next is a single leg stance. This is one that I like to do. And I always try and challenge myself a little bit more. You can try it with your eyes closed, and that really impacts your balance and sort of like visual stability as well. You could balance like this and then try going up and down on your toes. You can adapt this in a lot of ways to make it more fun or just to challenge yourself a little bit, or do it exactly as the video states and really gain that stability and confidence before you try anything else. Here is the single leg stance.
This is how to get into the best position for this exercise. Stand close to a stable surface, like a table or a counter, for support. Place your hand on the surface to get into position and stand tall. Lift one heel behind you. And once you feel stable, try letting go of the surface while maintaining your balance. Then, repeat with the opposite leg. Remember, if you lose your balance, reach for support. Let's get started.
All right. So again, a simple exercise that you can try at home. Make it easier, more difficult, challenge yourself, make sure you're building up that confidence. I encourage you to try some of those out. All right, so as I said, our next tip is all about lighting, and I titled it Light Up Your Life. Lighting is so important. Personally, we have night lights all throughout our house. They're the plug-in kind that come on automatically when it's dark. They're also, you can make them brighter or less bright depending on the room. So for example, in the kids' bathroom, we have them on less bright. So if they get up in the middle of the night, they're not walking in and it's like a spotlight on them from this night light. But those were small purchases that weren't very expensive, that we have all throughout our home. And I highly encourage everyone, no matter your age, night lights are amazing and can help prevent falls throughout the evening, or it's getting dark now at 5 o'clock. And so as you're preparing dinner and going about your day, making sure that everything is well lit is the way to go. All right. Next is assistive technology. So this is the reality that if we are beginning to get unstable on our feet, we're starting to feel less confident about our ability to stay upright at all times, it is time to talk about assistive technology. And there is no shame in this. And I know that is easier said than done. But if you need to utilize assistive technology, use it. Be proud of the ability to take care of yourself and protect your own health and well-being. Use the tools that you have available to you. So this can be something as simple as a cane. It could be a walker, the really cool ones with the seat so you can, spin around and sit down whenever you need to. These can be more of the like motorized wheelchairs, things like that. Use the tools that you have available to you. My great aunt has the most amazing cane. She's put rhinestones on it. She has all sorts of different ones to match different outfits. She uses that and matches her personality, and she's proud of it. And I love it. She's amazing to watch. But use that assistive technology that you have available to you. It's not always a cane, walker, wheelchair sort of thing as well. You could also be thinking about assistive technology in terms of handrails or non-slip treads on your stairs, things like that. All right, and our 7th tip is to stay safe. So winter is coming up. I hate winter, not a big fan, but it's coming, and we all need to be prepared for the bad weather. So if you have to go outside and it's bad weather, make sure that you are walking in safe spaces. Maybe you're walking with somebody. Walk on the grass instead of the sidewalk so that you have a little bit more traction. Use an ice melt product or sand or kitty litter. I'm not the expert on the environmental impacts of those products, so I won't say one way or the other what you should be using, but use a product that makes it safe for you and the environment. Be smart about going outside. Be careful when you're getting on and off buses or trains. If you live in an area with mass transportation, use handrails when you're out in public. Be safe, make smart choices, and protect yourself. And the last tip is be hands-free. So this is a recommended fall prevention tip throughout the literature, but this is one that I personally added because I will tell you my story about falling. So I was going downstairs to my office to hop on my next Zoom meeting of the day. And what did I do? I had a cup of coffee in one hand and my big cup of water in the other. And who came down the stairs behind me? My 150-pound dog. And who sent me flying down those stairs? My 150-pound dog. Did I have anything to grab onto? Nope, because my hands were full. There was coffee everywhere. The water didn't spill. It was an amazing cup. But I went down and I went down hard. And I was sore for over a week afterwards. It was awful. The dog has brushed past me so many times, but I've always had a hand to catch myself. So be hands free. Take trips. Take one thing at a time. You know, I could have easily run back up the stairs and grabbed my coffee and gone back down. Be smart, be hands free. Don't make silly mistakes like I did and learn the hard way. There's a lot that we can do to help prevent falls, and that's a big tip that I personally like to share my story about flying down the stairs. Okay, we have two more exercises, but in the interest of time, I'll just explain these. So sidestepping is just moving our ability to move from side to side, making those steps and bringing our feet together and apart, maintaining that balance. And then backwards walking. So this is a simple one. Hold on to a table or something sturdy next to you. Walk backwards. It works your brain and your body and your muscles in a different way and helps to prepare you for maybe getting off balance, being able to step backwards and catch yourself. So you can find these exercises online on YouTube and work your way through those. Okay, so the last thing that I want to leave you with is if you fall. So we've talked about all of these things with fall risks and how to prevent falls, lots of little things and tidbits of information for us to think about and look for. But if you fall, this is the reality, okay? You stop, you rest, you breathe, you don't do anything. You fall, let the shock subside and decide if you're hurt. When I fell down the stairs, it felt like I was laying there for 30 minutes before I finally felt safe to get up and start moving again. That's okay. Rest, breathe. If you're seriously injured, obviously call 911, get help as soon as you can. But if you know that you're okay, not in immediate danger, rest, breathe, let the shock subside, and then work on getting yourself up if you can. If you can, there's a long process to getting up, and that is okay. So it starts with rolling over, then resting. Get on your hands and knees, stop and rest. Crawl to a chair, rest midway if you need to. Raise up your chest and grab onto the chair, rest. Slide one foot forward so it's flat on the floor, so you're on one knee, 1 foot flat on the floor, rest. And then slowly work yourself up and turn to sit in that sturdy chair. So there's a way to safely get up if you're able to do so, but please do not hesitate to call for help if you need it. So whether that's calling 911, calling a family member, friend, neighbor, call for help if you need it. And then afterwards, talk to your doctor. I said that over half of people, or about half of people, don't tell their doctor if they fall, but you're twice as likely to fall again if you've fallen once. So let's talk to your doctor and figure out what's going on. So if you fall, take appropriate steps, call for help if you need it, take your time, it's okay. I missed my Zoom meeting. The world didn't end when I fell down the stairs. So let's be safe in responding to our falls. But my overall message to you is I hope that you've learned something new about falls prevention, that you are able to take something that you've learned and change one thing in your life, whether that's picking up your clutter, or getting rid of a throw rug, or maybe making an effort to exercise and increase your lower body strength a little bit more. Whatever it is that works for you, do it, and let's prevent falls and take that number down. And with that, I will pass it back to Monique to wrap us up.
Okay, I didn't see any. Are there any questions in our Q&A or chat? I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, just a couple thank yous, very informative. Someone said winter walking surfaces, kitty litter can contain clay, which would contribute to making a wet surface more slippery rather than less so. There are better choices available. Someone asked, what should vitamin D be?
I would recommend talking with your doctor about that because we all have our own personal needs, and things change with age and with our own bodies, depending on what our medications are and things like that. So talk with your doctor. And I see Mary Chris Barth asked about using this to share with your extension board. Absolutely, take this information and share it far and wide.
All right, great information. I always learn something new when I listen to you, Erin. So I think that grip strength was really eye-opening. I just come across something recently about that, and you just confirmed that. So very interesting. Thank you so much. So thanks for attending. Your opinions are valuable to us, and we would like for you to let us know what your thoughts are today about today's program. Please complete the survey and share the topics you would like us to cover in the future. Our next webinar will be on December 11th, and we'll be talking about simplifying your space, a guide to downsizing and decluttering. Also, be sure to check out our Living Well Wednesday website to view all of our past webinars. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.